Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a paint with me video in my sketchbook, and it's going to be all about light, temperature, and color. We're going to be painting a self-portrait with two different light sources. Let's check it out.
So if you've been following my channel for a while, you probably know that I really enjoy painting self-portraits, and it's something that I used to not be very comfortable with, but over time I've gotten more and more comfortable with the subject. But with this self-portrait, I wanted to do something a little different because I noticed that I feel really comfortable painting portraits with really dramatic lighting where we have really strong light and shadow shapes on the face, but I feel a lot less confident in painting portraits under flat lighting situations or when there are multiple light sources. So I wanted to challenge myself with this portrait and try painting a self-portrait that has two strong and different light sources. And because I paint a lot of self-portraits, I've gotten into the habit of taking lots of selfies during the day, just at random times of day, because you never really know what sort of lighting situation or moment is going to happen to cast just a really nice or interesting light on the face. And so I happened to be taking a selfie in the evening when I was sitting next to my lamp that was on, that was casting this yellow artificial light, but at the same time it was evening outside, and so there was this cool blue evening light that was coming in and that was hitting the other side of my face, and I thought that was a really interesting, it created this really interesting contrast of hues across my face. So even though the value of light on both sides of my face was fairly similar, the color temperature of the light was different, and so it was creating a lot of really interesting colors from one side of my face to the other. And I was a little bit nervous as to how I would convey this without my strong light and shadow shapes, but I did draw a lot of inspiration from some of my favorite painters, including Nicolas Uribe and Lou Beltran. Both of them, I think, are among, there are many artists who are good at this, but they're some of my favorites who are really good at capturing the subtle shifting of light across the face and how that impacts the colors and hues within the skin tones. So I was thinking about their examples when I was working on this portrait. And as I worked on the painting, I was realizing that there was some value contrast going on in the face. So the part of my face that was closer to the artificial light source was slightly lighter in value than the part that was being hit by the evening light. And so that gave me a little bit of, I guess, maybe consolation, or that made me feel a little bit more comfortable that I at least had some value contrast going on. But I kept the contrast pretty low because I really wanted the focus to be more about this shifting in color temperature as you go from one side of the face to the other. And I was also really careful to not put too much dark detail into the features of the face. I think my biggest concern when I'm working in a situation where the lighting is flatter like this is that I'll put in really dark features for the eyes, the nose, and the mouth, and then it'll have almost a cartoonish look to it. So that's something that I wanted to avoid. So even as I'm adding in a little bit of darker features here, I'm trying to be really mindful that they're not so dark that they seem to pop out in a way that is unnatural. And I think when I first lay them in here, I do get a little bit of that effect, but then I'm able to slightly soften it as I add more colors and hues to the face. And you can see at this point in the block-in, I already have some color regions of the face. So I have the yellow part that's closer to the artificial light. I have the blue side of the face that's being hit by the evening light. And then there's kind of this transition zone right around the forehead, the nose, and the chin, and that's kind of the in-between part of the face that's getting a little bit of both light and not too much of either. There is some value contrast, as I was saying, but it's relatively minimal, and so I'm thinking as I'm adding in my colors, I'm thinking how can I use, instead of using value to hint at the shape of my face, how can I use changes in the hue of the color to indicate a turning of the form? And I feel like at this stage of the block-in, I already have a sense of the two different light sources hitting the face that I'm pretty happy with. So then it comes down to refining and adding details and really bringing the shapes to light. Also making that blue evening light just a little bit stronger, a little bit brighter, so that you really get that effect on the left side of my face. And at this point, I actually had intended, I think, to stop the painting around here, but by this point I was getting really excited and just really enjoying the painting process and enjoying this new way of depicting the face and the portrait in a way that didn't rely so much on really light and dark shadow shapes, but instead was focused on these shifting colors. And so I spent a lot of time really going into detail, adding a lot of detail, and just kind of exploring how the slight shifts in color would have an impact on the portrait. And I'm also gradually building up some of the lights on the right side of my face to increase the effective form a little bit without relying too much on the shifts in value. I still really want the main focus to be the changes in hue, but I'm adding a bit of highlights here to really bring out some of my features. In the end, it came out a lot more detailed than I had intended for such a small sketch. I usually would not go into this much detail, but honestly, I was just having so much fun with this new idea, and I was just really enjoying how the painting was turning out. I think it just goes to show how sometimes, we can get really comfortable painting in one way or depicting a certain theme or depicting things in a certain light. And if we try something different, if we try something new, then we can make a lot of exciting discoveries. I definitely went into this painting thinking that it was really difficult to do a painting that didn't have a very strong light source, and now I feel a lot more confident about being able to handle this situation, which is great because there's so many instances when we don't have a super strong light source and yet we still feel inspired and we want to make paintings. So I think it's really nice to build that skill of being able to communicate, I guess you could call it maybe more subtle lighting situations. I think that's something that I would like to incorporate more into my future work. For me as an artist, I don't want to get good at doing just one thing and learning how to just depict that one thing in a certain way. I want to be able to communicate things about reality in all of its forms and all of the situations that may arise. So I think this was a great practice in that, and it was a great chance to get out of my comfort zone and try something new. So here's the final outcome. I'm really happy with how it turned out and how it communicates the two light sources, the shifting color temperatures. As I mentioned, I got a little tied up in all of the details, but honestly, I was just having so much fun with it that I just wanted to keep going. Let me know in the comments what you think and if you're trying anything new in your own art practice.
Thanks so much for watching, and a huge thank you to my supporters on Patreon. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for supporting my art. If you want to join my Patreon, check it out at the link below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.